Hello, dear friends. Let me welcome everyone presently watching Sotnik-TV. It's April 4th, 2020. We're streaming live. The time in Moscow is 7:01 p.m. Those in the Kremlin keep lowering themselves to all new low, let me assure you. Just listen to what Vladimir Putin declared yesterday. It turns out that the Saudis are to blame for the OPEC Plus treaty's failure. Putin got carried away with the reports about domestic oil reserves. He has forgotten the world has now become more transparent and most truths are now only 2 clicks away. So every time Putin lies, it's heard tens of thousands of miles away by every man and woman. On one side, he is begging the Saudis to reopen negotiations with him and to stop flooding the market with their low-cost oil. Otherwise, his rule may be over. On the other hand, he is lying through his teeth. He is suffering from a disease that progressively gets worse. That is called pseudology, and it keeps him from telling the truth. The moment he stops lying will probably be the day he dies. So he was heard by the Saudis, and they reacted. Let me share this quote with you. The head of Saudi's foreign ministry, Prince Faisal bin Farhal Al Saud, called President Putin's inaccurate about Riyadh withdrawing from the OPEC Plus treaty to eliminate competitors who produce shale oil. In April the 3rd, during a meeting dedicated to the situation regarding global resource markets, Mr. Putin declared that one of the reasons for the oil price collapse was Saudi Arabia withdrawing from the OPEC Plus treaty, increasing its oil production, and thus dropping oil prices to an all-time low. Such declarations lack some truth. According to Riyadh, it was Moscow that withdrew from the treaty first, while the rest of the OPEC Plus members have been trying to convince Moscow to reduce oil production. So blaming Saudi Arabia for withdrawing from the treaty is incorrect, end of quote. And here's one unanswered question regarding this matter. Trump was begging the Saudis to stay to keep the world from drowning in cheap oil. That was an indirect favor to Putin as well. He might not have wished for it, but Kremlin benefited from his negotiations with the Saudis. And now Putin has destroyed all that effort with a stupid lie. How can the rest of the world negotiate with such a pathetic liar? After he takes a crap on the negotiation table, will he still invite the Saudis to join him at the table? And here's the story that proves my words. A couple of hours ago, we found out that the OPEC Plus countries postponed an emergency summit planned for April 6th. The summit was postponed till April 8th or 9th. Well, Putin will still able to stay in power amid the current world crisis caused by the pandemic and multiplied by the oil tsunami. I discussed this topic with Gennady Gudkov, a former state parliament member. Gennady, please evaluate Putin's second address to the nation. Why do you think he doesn't wish to take responsibility any longer, and what should we expect in the future? I wrote an article, and it was read by quite a large amount of people. Over 250,000 hits on my blog. That article was written half a day before Putin's speech. I suggested there he wouldn't provide any stimulus relief. There are lots of new conspiracies after he gave the address. First of all, he was late, or should we say his address was late. Also, his wristwatch showed a different time other than the official starting time was. So, something is either wrong with Putin himself, or there might be some harsh cover-up during these times of high tension. And this address seems to have been recorded. At the last moment they were arguing about and enacting something before demonstrating it for everyone to see. I suppose some serious inner disagreement. As for the point of the address, I can answer this point of interest easily. Putin said we need to overcome this on our own as we should. He hasn't provided any funding that would help to overcome this crisis. We should struggle as usual, it seems. There are governors and mayors. They need to take care of everything immediately. Putin granted the authority to Prime Minister Mishustin, who depends on him. So the Prime Minister and the governors will take all the responsibility. The rest just need to survive as best as they can. That was the point of his speech if we take all the populism and empty platitudes out of it. The money is gone, hold on now. This was once said by Prime Minister Medvedev. That was the point of Putin's most recent address. After saying that, he has taken cover in one of his secluded residences yet again. And he has begun watching the country from his comfortable risk-free sanctuary. Watching it and surviving, watching it develop and watching the country die. So that was the result of his address to the nation. Whether or not it was just luck or using trickery on his part by orchestrating numerous affairs, buying of people lying and getting away with that all. Vladimir Putin has been in power in Russia for 20 years now. Has his luck finally run out? Will he remain at power despite those black swans that are roosting the Kremlin? I think the critical question now is what might Putin decide to do. Could he be forced to resign any day now? It all depends on many factors. Only time will tell if he will be able to overcome the economic catastrophe of falling oil prices, but yet the situation worsens. Vladimir Putin is no longer a sacred person. Take a look at how many evil jokes, memes, pictures, and the rest of the hazing going on, not to mention the criticism, are now meant personally. There were times that they used to say his political party was bad, or perhaps they would criticize his prime minister. But now all those criticisms are levied against Vladimir Putin personally. With the ongoing crisis, he isn't proving himself much of a leader, or someone who can save the nation. He took cover, passing all the responsibility onto his governors and ministers. Yet we know that he manipulates them just as if they were his marionette puppets. He commands them to act, and should anything go wrong, he will scold and punish them. To set up the changing of the constitution, he made the previous government resign. But as we can see, he has lost his status as a sacred person, and now he has lost most of his positive public perception. He has proven that he is not capable of being able to run the country in a crisis scenario. He can't find any solutions. His foreign policy has turned out to be full of empty promises. As the Arab states continue to abuse the Russian authorities nowadays, they turn out much tougher. The entire Russian economy has shown us this is based on cartoons and the nuclear weapons inherited from the USSR. If not for our nuclear weapons, the situation would be very different, and no one would ever ask us for our opinion. I'm not talking about the people, but the state of Russia doesn't deserve any respect nowadays. It does not create anything or provide any vital services with no contribution to the greater global civilization. The only thing it produces is resources, but this has nothing to do with that. The USSR used to depend on its natural resources as well, yet to a smaller extent, of course. So Putin is no longer a sacred person, and I can't say for how long he will stay in power now. If I were in his shoes, I would put ashes on his head and resign before people start getting even worse. If he does that now, people may still forgive him. If they see that he is sorry, and he resigns, and he allows the nation to make the necessary reforms, as well as electing a new government, they could still thank him in the end, but I don't think something like that will ever happen. He will never resign, and he would rather be overthrown by the people. I can't predict when that will happen and how it will happen, but that moment is coming. The authorities are unable to develop Russia, they are unable to give the people a future. They can't provide the level of life and income everyone like in other wealthy countries. So they will be overthrown by the same people who used to worship Putin, giving him their votes or at least pretending they were. That same person will rise up and the authorities will be removed. Unfortunately, that will leave a scar on our history. I guess that Putin has made a huge mistake. He could have left office as a glorious reformer, and now he will live as a person who brought only trouble to the country. Under his rule, the country is drawn to the side at the expense of the world's progress, global history and public opinion. That will sum up his legacy. I'll see you all next week. Take care of yourself, stay healthy and make sure to watch Sotnik-TV. Take care.